You're being watched and you love it. Here's a question. How many times today did you voluntarily give away information about yourself? You posted a photo. You checked in somewhere. You liked something. You shared your opinion. You filled out a form. You agreed to cookies. You synced your data. You're reading this right now and somewhere an algorithm is taking notes. Welcome to the society of transparency, and according to philosopher Byung-Chul Han, you're living in a nightmare disguised as freedom. But here's the twist. You're not just a victim. You're an enthusiastic participant. You're surveilling yourself, exploiting yourself, and calling it authenticity. And that's exactly the problem. Byung-Chul Han is a Korean-German philosopher who's become one of the most provocative critics of contemporary digital culture. His book, The Transparency Society, is a short, sharp warning about what we've lost in our obsession with making everything visible, quantifiable, and instantly accessible. And his argument is disturbing. Transparency isn't liberation. It's a new form of violence. Think about what we mean by transparency. It sounds positive, right? Transparency means honesty, accountability, openness. We want transparent government, transparent corporations, transparent relationships. We're suspicious of secrecy, privacy, hiddenness. We think that if everything is visible, if nothing can hide, we'll have truth, justice, and authenticity. But Han says we're deeply confused. The society of transparency isn't about truth. It's about control. It's about making everything available for economic exploitation. And it's destroying the very things that make us human. The ability to have an inner life, to develop ideas in private, to maintain mystery and otherness, to resist total integration into the system. The transparency society operates through exposure, not truth. Everything must be made visible, photographed, shared, liked, quantified. Your thoughts become posts. Your experiences become content. Your face becomes data. Your movements become trackable. Your preferences become monetizable. You're not a person anymore. You're a transparent node in a network, optimized for maximum value extraction. And here's what's insidious. This doesn't feel like oppression. It feels like freedom. Nobody's forcing you to post on social media. Nobody's making you share your location. Nobody's demanding you quantify your steps, your sleep, your productivity. You're doing it voluntarily. You want to be seen. You want to be transparent. You're terrified of being invisible, of having nothing to show, of falling behind in the attention economy. Han calls this the hell of the same. In a transparent society, everything becomes uniform, smooth, comparable. Differences are flattened. Mystery is eliminated. The other, the foreign, the strange, anything that resists immediate understanding and consumption, gets smoothed away. What remains is an endless proliferation of the same. The same selfies, the same opinions, the same lifestyle content, the same performance of authenticity, all competing for the same scarce resource: attention. We live in what Han calls a positivity society. This doesn't mean optimism. It means the elimination of negativity, resistance, and otherness. In older forms of society, power operated through prohibition and repression. There were clear authorities saying no. But in the transparency society, power operates through demand and optimization. Nobody says no. Instead, everything screams, yes you can. You can be anything, do anything, achieve anything as long as you perform it, share it, quantify it, optimize it. This sounds empowering, but it's exhausting. When there's no external authority to rebel against, you turn authority inward. You become your own boss, your own surveiller, your own optimizer. You exploit yourself more efficiently than any external oppressor could. You measure your productivity. You track your metrics. You curate your brand. You optimize your performance. And when you burn out, you blame yourself for not being resilient enough. The transparency society also destroys trust. This seems paradoxical. Shouldn't transparency create trust? But Han argues the opposite. Trust means accepting uncertainty, accepting that you can't know everything about someone. Trust is a relationship with the unknown. When you demand total transparency, you're actually expressing distrust. You want to eliminate uncertainty through total surveillance and verification. Think about relationships. Do you trust your partner more when you can track their location at all times? When you can scroll through their messages? When they document their entire day for you? Or does real trust mean accepting that they have an inner life you can't access, experiences you weren't part of, thoughts they haven't shared? Transparency doesn't build trust. It destroys the very space where trust can exist. Han is particularly scathing about the rhetoric of authenticity that dominates social media. Everyone's performing authenticity, sharing their real selves, their unfiltered moments, their honest opinions. But this performed authenticity is the opposite of genuine selfhood. You're not expressing yourself. You're producing yourself as a commodity for consumption. Your authenticity is calculated for maximum engagement, optimized for the algorithm, designed to generate value. The society of transparency turns everything into information, and information, unlike things, has no resistance. You can't hide information. You can't protect it. It flows freely, gets copied infinitely, gets processed instantly. And once you're reduced to information, you have no interiority, no depth, no soul. You're just data to be processed, patterns to be recognized, predictions to be made. So what have we lost? According to Han, we've lost the ability to be alone, to think deeply, to develop complex ideas that can't be expressed in a tweet. We've lost the ability to encounter genuine otherness, anything that resists our understanding and demands patience. We've lost the ability to maintain boundaries, to have secrets, to keep parts of ourselves private. We've lost the ability to trust without verification. And we've lost the ability to resist because resistance requires hiddenness, mystery, the capacity to withdraw from visibility. This is the trap of transparency. It promises liberation but delivers a more insidious form of control. And because we've embraced it voluntarily, because we're complicit in our own surveillance, we can't even identify it as oppression. We just feel exhausted, anxious, and somehow empty despite being constantly connected and visible. The pornography of everything. Han uses a deliberately provocative term. We live in a pornographic society. Not because everything is sexual, but because pornography is the logic of total exposure. Pornography eliminates distance, mystery, and imagination. It makes everything immediately visible and consumable. And that's exactly what the transparency society does to everything. Relationships, politics, knowledge, even the self. Think about what pornography actually is structurally. It's the elimination of narrative, context, and interiority. Bodies are reduced to surfaces to be consumed visually. There's no mystery, no seduction, no imagination required. Everything is already exposed. You don't have to wonder or interpret. It's all right there, optimized for immediate consumption and maximum stimulation. Now look at social media. Your life becomes a series of images optimized for immediate consumption. Your experiences are photographed before they're experienced. You're at a beautiful place, but you're more concerned with capturing and sharing it than actually being there. The image of the experience becomes more important than the experience itself. This is the pornographic logic. Everything must be made visible, must be performed for others, must be immediately consumable. Politics has become pornographic too. No longer is there depth, nuance, or patient analysis. Instead, there's constant scandal, constant exposure, constant performance. Politicians must be completely transparent, constantly visible, constantly responding. Every statement is scrutinized. Every action is photographed. Every contradiction is exposed. But does this create better politics? Or does it just create exhausting spectacle? Han argues that transparency destroys political power itself. Real political power requires the ability to make decisions in private, to negotiate, to compromise, to sometimes keep secrets for strategic reasons. When everything must be immediately visible and justifiable to the public, politics becomes impossible. All that remains is performance and scandal. No real change can happen because every attempt is immediately exposed, criticized, and paralyzed. The same logic applies to knowledge and thinking. Deep thought requires time, privacy, and the freedom to explore ideas without immediately justifying them. But in the transparency society, you must constantly share your thoughts, document your process, demonstrate your productivity. This destroys the conditions for real intellectual work. Universities increasingly operate on this logic. Research must be constantly measured, quantified, and made visible. Academics must document their productivity, generate measurable outputs, demonstrate their impact. But real intellectual breakthroughs often come from long periods of apparent unproductivity, from private rumination, from pursuing ideas that seem useless. Transparency culture makes this impossible. Even relationships have become pornographic. Dating apps reduce people to images and brief text, optimized for immediate evaluation. You swipe through humans like products. Every potential partner must be immediately legible, their qualities and compatibility instantly accessible. The mystery and slowness of getting to know someone, the process that actually creates intimacy, is eliminated in favor of immediate, transparent evaluation. And once you're in a relationship, the same logic applies. Couples share everything on social media, performing their happiness for an audience. Every meal, every trip, every moment is documented and shared. But is this intimacy? Or is it the opposite? The elimination of genuine intimacy through constant performance for others? Han argues that this pornographic logic destroys what he calls the other. The other is anything that resists immediate understanding, that maintains mystery, that can't be reduced to information and consumed. Encountering the other requires patience, imagination, and acceptance of uncertainty. But the transparency society can't tolerate otherness. Everything must be made same, comparable, transparent. This has profound implications for how we relate to other people. In a pornographic society, other people aren't genuinely other. They're extensions of ourselves, mirrors for our narcissism. We don't encounter them in their strangeness and difference. We reduce them to information we can process, images we can consume, profiles we can evaluate. Real encounter becomes impossible. The society of transparency is also a society of exhibitionism. Everyone is compelled to display themselves, to make themselves visible, to share their lives. But exhibitionism isn't authentic self-expression. It's self-commodification. You're not revealing yourself. You're producing yourself as spectacle, as content, as brand. And for every exhibitionist there must be voyeurs. We're all watching each other, consuming each other's performances, comparing ourselves, evaluating. This creates a society of universal mutual surveillance, but not the 1984 kind with Big Brother watching from above. Instead, we're all watching each other horizontally, and we're watching ourselves more intensely than anyone else watches us. This mutual surveillance doesn't feel oppressive because it's voluntary and it feels social. You're not being monitored by an authoritarian state. You're sharing with friends. You're building community. You're expressing yourself. But the result is the same: total visibility, constant performance, elimination of privacy and interiority. Han suggests that this is why we're obsessed with authenticity now. Everyone talks about being authentic, being real, being unfiltered. But this obsession itself reveals that authenticity has been lost. In a truly authentic existence, you wouldn't need to constantly perform and declare your authenticity. The very fact that authenticity has become something you must demonstrate, something you must make visible and prove, shows that it's disappeared. What's destroyed in the pornographic society is what Han calls the atopic. That which has no place, that which can't be categorized and positioned within the existing system of visibility and exchange. The atopic is strange, foreign, resistant to understanding. It disturbs us because we can't immediately process and consume it. But it's precisely this disturbance that makes genuine experience possible. Think about great art. It doesn't give you everything immediately. It resists complete understanding. It maintains mystery and depth. You have to spend time with it, return to it, struggle with it. But in a pornographic culture, art increasingly becomes decorative, immediately consumable, designed to be photographed and shared rather than contemplated. The Instagram museum experience is the perfect example. You don't look at art, you photograph yourself with art to demonstrate that you were there. The society of transparency, then, is a society of surfaces without depth, visibility without truth, information without meaning, connection without intimacy, and expression without authentic selfhood. Everything has been made transparent, but in the process, everything worth seeing has disappeared. The burnout society, when you exploit yourself. Here's where Han's analysis gets really uncomfortable. The transparency society doesn't just survey you from outside. It makes you survey yourself. It doesn't exploit you through external coercion. It makes you exploit yourself. And it doesn't burn you out through overwork imposed by others. It makes you burn yourself out in pursuit of your own optimization. Welcome to what Han calls the achievement society, where you're simultaneously master and slave. Previous forms of society operated through discipline and prohibition. There were clear rules, clear authorities, clear boundaries. You were told what you couldn't do. Power operated through the negative: no, forbidden, prohibited. And this created clear lines of resistance. You knew who the oppressor was and you could rebel against them. But the achievement society operates through the positive. Yes, you can. Everything is possible. You can be anything. There are no limits except your own effort and optimization. You're not repressed. You're empowered. You're an entrepreneur of yourself, a project to be optimized, a brand to be developed. Sounds great, right? Except this is a more insidious form of control. When there's no external authority to rebel against, when all constraints are supposedly self-imposed, when failure is always your own fault for not trying hard enough or being resilient enough, you can't rebel. You can only turn the violence inward. You become your own slave driver, more demanding and punishing than any external boss could be. Think about how we talk about productivity now. You track your time. You measure your output. You optimize your routines. You hack your biology. You gamify your goals. You quantify yourself constantly. There are apps for tracking everything. Your steps, your sleep, your water intake, your screen time, your meditation minutes, your productive hours. You're producing data about yourself constantly, and this data is used to optimize yourself further. But who benefits from your optimization? You might get slightly more done, but mainly you're making yourself more valuable to the system, more efficient at producing, more willing to work longer hours because you've internalized the demand for productivity. You're not being forced to work. You want to work. You feel guilty when you're not productive. You've turned yourself into the perfect neoliberal subject. Self-exploiting, self-surveilling, constantly striving for more. The transparency society demands that you make this self-exploitation visible. You don't just work, you document your productivity. You share your morning routine. You post about your hustle. You demonstrate your optimization. This serves multiple functions. It disciplines you through the gaze of others. It inspires others to self-exploit more efficiently. And it produces valuable data about optimization strategies that can be harvested and monetized. Han argues that this leads to a new form of exhaustion. It's not the exhaustion of the laborer who worked all day in the factory and can finally rest. It's the exhaustion of the achievement subject who can never rest because there's always more optimization possible, always more productivity to be achieved, always more value to extract from yourself. You're exhausted not from doing too much, but from the pressure to always be able to do more. This produces what Han calls burnout depression. It's different from traditional depression, which was often linked to repression and inability to be oneself. Burnout depression comes from the opposite, the demand to constantly be yourself, express yourself, achieve yourself, optimize yourself. You're exhausted from the tyranny of possibility, from the demand to be always positive, always productive, always improving. And here's the cruel irony. When you burn out, it's framed as your personal failure. You weren't resilient enough. You didn't practice enough self-care. You didn't set proper boundaries. You didn't optimize correctly. The system that created the conditions for your burnout now sells you the solutions. Mindfulness apps, productivity hacks, resilience training, wellness programs. But these solutions just integrate you more deeply into the logic that caused the problem. The transparency society also creates what Han calls the tiredness society. We're all tired all the time, but it's a specific kind of tiredness. It's not the good tiredness that comes from meaningful effort and rest. It's the tired of constant overstimulation, constant availability, constant performance. Your attention is fragmented across countless tasks and stimuli. You can never fully focus on anything because you're always partially focused on everything. This creates what Han calls multitasking, which he sees not as a skill but as a regression. Animals in the wild must constantly monitor their environment for threats, never able to fully focus on any one thing. This constant divided attention is a survival mechanism in dangerous environments. But humans develop the capacity for deep, sustained attention, for contemplation. The transparency society destroys this capacity, returning us to a more primitive state of scattered awareness. Think about your daily experience. How often are you doing just one thing? You're watching something while checking your phone. You're in a meeting while answering emails. You're having dinner while scrolling social media. You're never fully present anywhere because you're always partially available everywhere. This isn't freedom. It's fragmentation. The achievement society also creates new forms of violence. Han calls it autoaggression. Unable to direct aggression outward at clear oppressors, you turn it inward. You're angry at yourself for not being productive enough, successful enough, optimized enough. And this self-directed violence is invisible to others and to yourself because it's framed as self-improvement. Even leisure becomes work in the transparency society. Your vacation must be documented and shared. Your hobbies must be optimized and measured. Your rest must be quantified to ensure it's productive rest. Nothing escapes the logic of achievement and display. You can't just exist. You must always be producing yourself, improving yourself, displaying yourself. The solution isn't individual resilience or better self-care. Those just deepen the problem. The solution requires recognizing that the achievement society's entire logic is destructive, that total transparency and constant self-optimization aren't ideals to strive for but pathologies to resist. But resistance requires the very things the transparency society destroys: privacy, hiddenness, the capacity to withdraw from visibility, and the courage to be unproductive. The death of Eros. Why nothing excites you anymore? Here's a disturbing thought. When was the last time you were genuinely surprised? When did you last encounter something that truly resisted your understanding, that couldn't be immediately processed and filed away? When did you last experience genuine desire, not just the stimulation of another dopamine hit? Han argues that the transparency society has killed eros, and with it, genuine experience itself. Eros in Han's sense isn't just sexual desire. It's the force that draws us toward otherness, toward what we don't already know and possess. Eros requires distance, mystery, imagination. You desire what you don't have, what you can't fully know, what maintains some hiddenness and resistance. Seduction takes time. It involves imagination, anticipation, uncertainty. The other must remain somewhat other for desire to exist. But the transparency society eliminates otherness. Everything is made immediately available, fully visible, completely accessible. There's no distance to cross, no mystery to uncover, no imagination required. You don't desire, you consume. You don't seduce, you evaluate profiles and swipe. You don't encounter genuine otherness, you process information and make optimal choices. This creates what Han calls the smoothness of the same. Everything becomes uniform, frictionless, optimized. But friction, resistance, difficulty, these are what make experience meaningful. When everything is smooth, nothing leaves a mark. You consume endlessly but experience nothing deeply. You're constantly stimulated but never truly excited. Think about how we consume culture now. Music, films, articles, images, everything is instantly available in infinite quantities. You no longer have to wait, search, or struggle to access things. This seems like paradise, but what's actually happened? Most people report feeling overwhelmed and unable to deeply engage with anything. You endlessly scroll, endlessly skip, endlessly search for the next thing, but nothing satisfies because satisfaction requires sustained attention and engagement, which the logic of total availability makes impossible. Dating and relationships illustrate this perfectly. Dating apps present an apparently infinite supply of potential partners. Everyone is made transparent through profiles, photos, and messaging. You can evaluate compatibility instantly. You can talk to multiple people simultaneously. You can always look for someone better. This seems like maximum freedom and choice, but what's the result? Widespread reports of alienation, inability to commit, failure to develop deep connections, and the sense that despite endless options, something is missing. What's missing is eros. When everyone is immediately available and fully transparent, there's nothing to desire. The mystery, difficulty, and distance that create genuine desire have been eliminated. You're not encountering others in their otherness. You're consuming profiles, evaluating options, making efficient choices. But efficiency is the enemy of desire. Han argues that we've replaced eros with pornography, and he means this structurally, not just literally. Pornography is the logic of total visibility and immediate consumption. Everything is exposed. Nothing is hidden. There's no narrative, no development, no imagination required. You consume images, get stimulated, move to the next image. This is how we increasingly relate to everything. Culture, relationships, information, even ourselves. The digital society amplifies this. Algorithms give you more of what you already like. Echo chambers confirm what you already believe. Targeted advertising shows you products based on your existing preferences. Everything is customized to you, which sounds great until you realize it means you never encounter genuine otherness, anything that challenges or surprises you. You're trapped in a hall of mirrors, seeing endless reflections of yourself. This is why nothing excites you anymore. Excitement requires encounter with otherness, with something that disrupts your existing patterns and preferences. But the algorithmic society eliminates such encounters. It smooths everything, makes everything frictionless, gives you more of the same. You're maximally comfortable and minimally alive. Han also talks about the death of play. Real play involves risk, unpredictability, and uselessness. You play without predetermined outcomes, without optimizing for results. But the transparency society must make everything productive and measurable. Even games become work. You track your stats, optimize your strategy, compete for rankings. The playful element, the element of purposeless joy, disappears. The same happens with contemplation. True contemplation means dwelling with something without immediate purpose, allowing it to unfold in its own time, tolerating ambiguity and uncertainty. But the acceleration and optimization of the transparency society make contemplation impossible. Everything must be processed quickly, evaluated instantly, made useful immediately. Depth disappears. What emerges is what Han calls the society of positivity, which is actually the elimination of genuine experience. Genuine experience requires negativity, resistance, difficulty, otherness, the unknown. But positivity society says yes to everything, makes everything available, smooths all friction. And in this total availability, experience itself becomes impossible. You can see this in how we relate to beauty. Beauty requires distance. Something beautiful withdraws from complete comprehension, maintains mystery, demands patient attention. But we've replaced beauty with the pretty, the pleasing, the immediately consumable. Instagram aesthetics are perfectly smooth, perfectly accessible, perfectly boring. Real beauty disturbs and resists, but disturbance has been eliminated. Even thinking has been colonized by this logic. Deep thought requires negativity, the capacity to dwell with problems, to tolerate confusion, to resist quick answers. But we've replaced thinking with information processing. We consume content, process data, form instant opinions. Real thought, which is slow, difficult, and often unproductive, becomes impossible. The tragedy is that we experience this as liberation. Unlimited choice, total access, infinite possibility. But we've lost the capacity for genuine experience, genuine desire, genuine encounter. We're left with endless stimulation producing nothing but exhaustion and a vague sense that despite having everything, we have nothing. Reclaiming opacity, the revolutionary act of being unseen. So if the transparency society is destroying us, what do? Han doesn't offer easy solutions or life hacks. He's not going to tell you to delete your social media or buy a dumb phone. His analysis is more radical. We need to reclaim opacity, hiddenness, and the right to be unseen. In a society that demands total visibility, invisibility becomes revolutionary. First, understand that you can't just opt out individually. The transparency society isn't something separate from you that you can simply reject. It's structured into how we work, communicate, and exist socially. Going off-grid is a privilege most people don't have, and individual withdrawal doesn't challenge the system. But you can practice what Han calls idiocy in the original Greek sense, focusing on your own private life, refusing constant public performance. This means reclaiming privacy not as something to hide but as a space for genuine selfhood. Privacy isn't about having secrets in a guilty sense. It's about having an inner life that isn't immediately monetized, surveilled, and optimized. It's about thoughts you don't immediately share, experiences you don't instantly document, parts of yourself you don't display for others. Start by resisting the impulse to share. Not everything needs to be posted. Not every thought needs to be tweeted. Not every experience needs to be photographed and made into content. Try having experiences purely for yourself, without the mediation of an audience. This feels surprisingly difficult because we've learned to experience things through the anticipated gaze of others. Reclaim immediate experience. Resist quantification. You don't need to track everything. Your worth isn't determined by your productivity metrics. Your sleep doesn't need to be scored. Your exercise doesn't need to be logged. The quantified self is the transparent self, reduced to data points and optimization opportunities. Practice doing things without measuring them, without turning them into achievable, trackable goals. Cultivate slowness and contemplation. In a society of acceleration and instant response, taking your time becomes radical. Read slowly. Think slowly. Let ideas develop without immediately expressing them. Practice what Han calls deep boredom, the state where you're not constantly stimulated, not consuming content, not optimizing yourself. This is where genuine thought and creativity become possible. Embrace uselessness. Do things without purpose, without productivity, without clear outcomes. Play without keeping score. Create without sharing. Think without immediate application. The transparency society demands everything be useful and measurable. Uselessness is resistance. Protect mystery and otherness. In relationships, don't demand total transparency. Allow the other person to remain somewhat other, to have an inner life you don't fully access. This isn't about tolerating lies or deception. It's about recognizing that genuine intimacy requires respect for the other's irreducible strangeness. Trust means accepting uncertainty, not eliminating it through surveillance. Practice refusal. You don't have to be constantly available. You don't have to respond immediately. You don't have to share your location. You don't have to make your life legible to algorithms. Every demand for transparency can be met with respectful but firm refusal. This is harder than it sounds because refusal marks you as suspicious, uncooperative, as having something to hide. But that's exactly why it's necessary. Recognize that authenticity can't be performed. The more you try to demonstrate your authenticity, the less authentic you become. Real authenticity exists in the gap between your inner life and your public performance, in the parts of yourself you don't display, in the thoughts you don't share. Stop trying to be authentic for an audience. Just exist. Support structures that resist transparency. Support organizations that protect privacy. Support art that maintains difficulty and doesn't immediately give everything away. Support political movements that reject constant visibility and scandal-driven discourse. Support educational institutions that value slow, deep thought over measurable outcomes. The resistance must be collective, not just individual. Understand that the goal isn't returning to some pre-modern state. Han isn't advocating nostalgia. The Transparency Society has real benefits: accountability, access to information, connection across distances. The problem is totalization. When transparency becomes absolute, when nothing can remain hidden, when optimization becomes total. What we need is balance, boundaries, limits. Reclaim the negative. The Society of Positivity says yes to everything, makes everything possible, smooths all friction. But genuine life requires negativity, the ability to say no, to withdraw, to be unavailable, to resist. The negative creates the space where genuine experience, thought, and selfhood become possible. Practice saying no. Practice being unavailable. Practice resisting the demand for constant positivity and optimization. Think critically about technology. Technology isn't neutral. Social media platforms, tracking apps, and algorithmic systems are designed to extract maximum value from your transparency. Understanding this doesn't mean rejecting technology entirely, but using it critically and establishing boundaries. Don't let platforms determine how you relate to yourself and others. Finally, accept the discomfort. Resisting the Transparency Society feels wrong because we've internalized its values. Privacy feels like suspicion. Slowness feels like inefficiency. Uselessness feels like failure. Being unseen feels like being irrelevant. These feelings are symptoms of how deeply the logic of transparency has colonized our consciousness. Push through the discomfort. The other side is genuine freedom. Han's vision is dark but not hopeless. He shows us how the Transparency Society traps us in cycles of self-exploitation, exhaustion, and meaninglessness. But he also shows that the tools of resistance still exist. Privacy, slowness, contemplation, mystery, the capacity to withdraw from total visibility. In a world that demands you make everything visible, the most radical act is keeping something hidden. In a world that demands constant productivity, the most subversive act is being gloriously useless. In a world that demands you optimize yourself endlessly, the most revolutionary act is simply being. The Transparency Society promises liberation but delivers a more complete form of control. Recognizing this is the first step toward real freedom. The second step is harder. Actually practicing opacity, actually reclaiming your right to be unseen, actually resisting the demand that you make yourself transparent. But this is the work of our time. The question isn't whether you have something to hide. The question is whether you have a self-worth protecting from total visibility and complete exploitation. And if the answer is yes, then opacity isn't suspicious. It's necessary.